Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the virtual online roadshow of Swiss Resource Capital AG here out of Switzerland in Herisau. And we have today Kuya Silver and David Stein, the CEO, is here with us. David, good morning to Canada. How are you doing?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jochen. I'm doing well. Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time as our attendees and participants are still checking in. Let me do some remarks here. My name is Jochen Steiger. I'm the founder and CEO of Swiss Resource Capital and also Commodity TV and Rohstoff-TV. And of course, we are fully complying to the data security law of Europe, Switzerland, and also Great Britain. We look forward to a very lively discussion after David has presented for approximately 20-25 minutes. And please use the chat function and the Q&A function inside the chat function of our system here. So let me look up the attendees here. Yes, great. That is all working. And I would suggest that I bring up the slides. And David, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Since I've given presentations here with Jochen before, I'm going to keep the presentation reasonably short. Focus more on some of the updates, which we have had a lot of material news in the last few weeks and going back to the late last year. So I'm going to focus more on what's new with the company and leave lots of time for Q&A at the end, which I think we all enjoy. So let's move on. I guess before I do that, just as a reminder, we trade on the CSE. Kuya is our ticker, same as our name. And you can also find us in Germany and on the OTC US. There's our disclosures. You can please read those. You can find this presentation on our website at any time of day, 24 hours a day. You can look at this. Okay, so big picture here, we are redeveloping the Bethania Mine, silver mine in Peru. That is our flagship asset. We acquired it from local owners in 2020 after doing a joint venture with them for several years. And it is a high-grade, past producing silver mine. It's been shut down for about 5 years now, and it was always toll milling though. So the previous owners, never had the capital to invest in their own plant, and that was something that we thought could make a huge difference here in terms of producing more silver at a lower cost. And that's really what we have been working towards ever since we got involved, as well as making the project a lot bigger through exploration. So we've been able to do both. Some of the key milestones that we have achieved up until now have been getting the EIA approved for the new plant and tailings facility in late 2020. Then we got our construction license very recently in earlier this year. So we've been able, through various challenges, COVID, changes of governments, we've been able to get stuff done in Peru, and that's really a credit to our strong management team, especially our local team in Peru. In addition, on the exploration side, we've been able to do a significant drill program last year. First ever 43-101 resource on the property we just announced a little over a month ago. And then very importantly as well, we've been able to consolidate a big package of land around the mine. So we've really transformed this project from just the mine itself to now a whole silver district that we have to explore and grow into. We do have a second project in Ontario, Canada as well. That's our sort of future growth beyond Bethania. But most of the presentation and most of our focus right now is on Bethania in Peru. Here's our share structure. Again, it has not changed very much. We've got 45 million shares outstanding. Notable management insider ownership, including myself, still at this point the largest shareholder in the company, and very proud and happy to be that. And our advisory team includes some of the people who helped us start the company in Peru, as well as our former chairman and still geological advisor, Quentin Hennig. So that we've got three people on that advisory team who own just under 12%. We've got Eric Sprott as a big shareholder, and we've got some other institutional investors that we've picked up more recently. All right, I'm going to, I'm going to go very briefly through the next 3 slides. This is kind of our corporate strategy, but it's worth reminding you that really there's a huge opportunity here for a silver developer like us to, get into production very quickly here and get a very, very massive revaluation. And we've seen that happen with companies more recently like Go Gold and Aya. Who have achieved very, very significant valuations, upwards of $1 billion Canadian on relatively small production profiles. But having that production versus having no production seems to make a big difference for investors. And we've got very similar exploration opportunities and upside, I think, to those companies. We're just a little earlier in terms of our drilling and earlier in terms of our developing of the mine. So that's where we're trying to get to here. It's a very, very small universe. That's why silver companies become so valuable. And I would say that if you think, Aya and Go Gold and Kuya, for that matter, are valuable now, wait till you see us in a silver bull market, because you haven't seen anything yet. This has been a very, very weak market in the last year, especially for silver. And these silver producers, there's very, very few of them. And when the generalist investors decide they want exposure to silver, they want to own something in the silver mining industry, there's going to be a lot of money crowding into very, very few stocks. And that's obviously good for us. Companies such as well-known companies like First Majestic, Endeavour, Pan American Silver have followed in the same footsteps that we're doing, starting with one single small mine and then growing through acquisition and organic growth of their operations. So that's really our business model, and we are doing that first with Bethania, and then we will do it with other mines. Okay, here's where Bethania is located. We are in the kind of central part of Peru, very close to Lima as the crow flies. We're even closer to this major city of Huancayo, road access right to site. You can see some other well-known lead, zinc, silver mines in the district near where we are. So we are, more silver rich than these other mines, but very similar geology and kind of ore deposits to these other polymetallic mines. Very mining friendly part of Peru as well. Peru is a very diverse country with lots of geographies and different peoples. And this is, in my opinion, the best part of Peru to be in for mining. All right, so there's 2 ways to win as a Kuya shareholder. You win when we are, generating exploration success and growing our resources. And you win as we develop the Bethania project and get closer and closer to cash flow. So that's what we call our dual track value creation. I think this makes Kuya very unique versus the vast majority of companies out there that are pure exploration. And you can see that on both tracks, we are ticking off the boxes here, moving these things along, and recently, we've been able to get some key permits in Peru on the development side. So we will continue to move along this yellow line for the rest of this year until we get into commissioning the plant. And then on the exploration side, we're growing the resources. We continue to demonstrate, we're finding more and more veins at Bethania, and we've got all the regional exploration to do as well. So there's huge growth there. Okay, before I get into the growth of the resource, it's worth mentioning that, the reason, or one of the reasons why we are building our own plant is to make more money. We feel really strongly that there's a big opportunity here to capture more of the value of this very high-grade silver polymetallic ore through having our own plant. And of course, that starts with, getting better TCRC terms, just producing more than the previous owners did, more ore, and also adding a copper gold circuit for the first time, whereas they previously had never been paid for there's minor copper and gold in the ore, but it's worth recovering. Then when you look at toll milling fees, obviously we eliminate those. We eliminate the long haul trucking of the ore, which means trucking costs are very, very minimal when you only have to truck concentrate. So that those improvements all flow through to the bottom line. We have no royalties or streams on the project. And so this is a very, very clean cash flow story once we get into production. Okay, now let's talk about exploration. This is very, very exciting, I think, and frankly, a lot more exciting than it was a year ago. Here's our whole land package now, 5,300 hectares in the Bethania district. The mine is where the yellow star is. Carmelita is the second project. It's a kind of a smaller mine that we acquired last year, and it's only 3 kilometers away from Bethania. And then we more recently in November were able to acquire that yellow area, pink area, and the blue dots represent just some of the targets that we know are there from previous studies and exploration, and we will be going sort of back and investigating all those very shortly and more. I'm sure we'll find more. So it's a very, very exciting district to be in. It's anything in this sort of general area is truckable distance to the mill. So so we're really building a district here that will be centered around the Bethania mill. Here's our resource estimate that we announced about 6 weeks ago, early January. Between the indicated and inferred resource, you're looking about just under 14 million ounces of silver equivalent. And we've, as I'll show you in a couple slides, even over the resource area, we've already started making, even new discoveries. So that, it looks to me like that is already growing. But a great start. We had this historical knowledge of the deposit, so we had to start somewhere, and we're very, very pleased. We got a lot more mineralization in the upper levels of the mine than we expected. Between the 63% of the indicated and what's in the inferred category above the main production adit, you're looking about 50% of the combined resource is above the historical production adit. Which we would have thought is mostly mined out, but what we found is obviously there's ore left in some of the main vein areas, but on top of that we made a lot of new discoveries of new veins at the upper levels of the mine that we weren't necessarily expecting when we got into this. So that was very, very positive. And then below the mine workings, everything is open, basically as expected. Here's a 3D kind of a model or screenshot of the resource and showing the whole mining concession. You can see a couple things here. Number one is that I'm going to draw on this actually. So number one, so about 50% of the resource is in this area here, where the gray is mined out areas, but keep in mind you're looking at actually 18 different veins and branches of veins in this direction. So they're not all mined out. In fact, a lot of it isn't mined out. So that's about 50% of our resource. And then the other 50 is just in this bottom area here. We're only about 1/3 of the strike length of the mining concession in this direction. And so all of this is unexplored here. Okay, clear that, and let's look at one of the veins. So when we put out our press release on the resource in early January, we showed 3 of these veins. So if you want to look at the other 2 vein systems, I would encourage you to go back to that press release. They look very similar to this, which is that we have the high grade in the pink. That's above 20 ounces per ton average. And then you can see these higher grade shoots seem to be plunging vertically at depth. And if you go to the Victoria vein system or the Espanola vein system, you'll see more or less the same thing. So that seems to be what's happening. That's where we can chase the higher grade ore at depth. But even the orange and the red is not too bad either. Okay, here's a long section of the property, and this is showing some of the recent drill results and samples, underground samples, in the main Bethania vein system. Just 500 meters to the east, we made a number of new discoveries of veins near a historical adit that we knew about called Espanola dos. We made some of these discoveries earlier in the year. We've added to that since. But Santa Elena, the one that's actually furthest to the east, so far looking like the best one at over 90 ounces per ton in one sample and 5 grams gold. 90 ounces silver, and we got another sample in that same vein that was 11 grams gold. So high gold and silver in this Santa Elena vein, and we've got some good hits in these other veins as well. So this is looking like a whole new zone for us. It's only 500 meters away from the mine workings, likely all part of the same system. But we will go back and do some more work here at surface to really understand what's going on. Then we'll drill it, and ultimately we want to connect it all together. So here's again just our priority for exploration at just the Bethania mining concession by itself here. And keep in mind we've got the 14 million ounces resource here in this area here. Again, we've got new discoveries at surface here, so likely higher than that. But our exploration priority number one is to drill this at depth. So that will definitely be something we do in the next round, and we can drill from underground, because we do have underground access here. The second priority, or 1B priority, it's also very important, is this new zone here. And then we want to, connect it all together and also move it to the east. We've got actually a prospect just off of our property around here, which is now part of our mineral claims. So we are, pretty confident this is all part of the same system. Okay, can you clear that? Thank you. Okay. And again, now we're looking at our new exploration results that just came out recently. Our most recent press release was the Carmen vein discovery, and we announced some other good results here, not just the Carmen vein, but the Carmen vein is kind of interesting for a number of reasons. Firstly, I don't know if there's the clear button. There we go. Okay, so again. Number one, so the Carmen vein is here. You can see all these is here. You can see all these. I don't want to draw over top of these dots, but you can see all these pink and red dots here. Those are that's high grade gold at surface that we're finding. Sorry, I'm drawing freehand, but you can see this is a vein. Again, this is exactly where our resource is, and this vein we didn't know about until just basically a few weeks ago. So even within our resource area, there's more to be found. And these other main veins like Doce de Mayo and Espanola, they branch they branch especially at surface, and those branches can be very high grade. We've got some very good hits there. So this is still growing even right here in the main mineral resource, which is fantastic. It's really, really exciting. And then, again, we announced some more work that we've done over here. We're still taking samples over in this area here. This is the hilltop zone, and you can see these veins, however, in the hilltop area, kind of strike like that, northwest, southeast. So they're striking onto these new mineral claims, which we now have acquired. So So that's this is good that we can keep exploring to the northwest. And let's not forget about Carmelita. This we acquired last year. It's a smaller kind of artisanal mine that's 3 kilometers away, but very, very similar geologically to Bethania, and that's why this excited us so much, and we wanted to buy it from the the local owners. What they were mining was very kind of similar silver, lead, zinc material to what we have at Bethania. We took samples of it. We sampled the veins at surface. These veins come right to surface, just like our veins at Bethania do. So it makes for very easy exploration, because you can, again, start at surface and then go shallow underground, then deeper underground, in kind of that order. And that's exactly what we're doing at Bethania. We can basically repeat the process over here. And the footprint on surface is also, similar to Bethania. Where you're looking at hundreds of meters to a kilometer of strike length, and at least what we can see at surface, and so that can be a big target for us going forward. So you will see us working there very soon. Lastly, on Bethania, it's been a pleasure to work with our local community, the Proche community. Going back to the EIA process, which we did mostly the work for in 2018-19. We've been developing a good relationship with the local community, and then more recently with some of the drill programs and activity that we've been having on site. So the system there in terms of the rights of the local people are somewhat similar to Mexico with the ejidos, in the sense that they have a very, very important role to play with any mining development in their territory. We just have the one community that we work with right now called Proche, and they cover the Carmelita mine as well. So that's very handy for us to keep that partnership going. I guess if we expand to the north and south, ultimately we will be dealing with other communities as well, but for now it's just the Proche community. And then lastly, just briefly, we did acquire the Silver Kings project last year, and we did a little bit of work on it. We will be putting an update on that very soon. What we really like about this project is that it is high-grade silver veins near surface, very similar to Bethania. So, and we were able, to get it, we think, for a very, very low price, and so something that we can work on and build up our presence there as we see success at Bethania, and also we can use this as well to react to higher silver prices in the market. We can get more aggressive here, or we can kind of scale it up and down depending on the market appetite. But we do really see good potential here for it to do something similar to what we're doing with Bethania, which is identify a high-grade silver resource near surface, look at some kind of small but easy to permit mining situation to get into production, maybe produce again something like 2 million ounces of silver a year, just throwing out ballpark numbers here, but something again similar to what we were doing in Peru, and get into production, and then you're sort of justify being there permanently. And so that's really the goal here, and we feel we can achieve the goal in particular with the Kerr area. That's the most advanced part of the project. Some really good intersections from the previous owners there. The one that we are most excited about is this hole 93, because that is quite far away from any mine workings and appears to be a new discovery. And 2 meters, over 500 grams per ton silver. That's something that, again, very similar to the types of veins that we see at Bethania. Geologically and metallurgically, this is very different. Make no mistake about it. You're looking at, instead of lead being your main byproduct and gold and zinc in Peru, we've got cobalt here as a byproduct. So geologically different, but mining-wise, there's a lot of similarities, and so that's kind of an important thing. We can take our knowledge from Peru and migrate it back to Canada. Okay, that's we've got a great team. We've added recently with a new Peruvian director, Javier Del Rio from Hudbay, but I won't spend more time on this. You can read the bios at your leisure. The advisory team that I mentioned earlier, and that is the end. Make sure if you want to hear from us and want to get our updates that you sign up on our website, kuyasilver.com. And I would highly recommend that. We send out really good stuff. We just sent out a big compilation a few days ago, so of our recent news and media. So it is a great way for us to keep in touch if you are interested in following us. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, David. Great presentation. Of course, also you find all the information on Swiss Resource Capital for sure, and also on Rohstoff-TV and Commodity TV with the regular and ongoing updates. Yeah, perfect. Let me shortly look into that here. Okay, let's get started. Peru, 4 different presidents within 1 year, one of them sitting behind Swedish curtains. A new election underway. How unstable is the political situation, or how stable is it in terms of turning again back to communism, the spirit of the time shows us worldwide in South America? Probably that's the reference I made earlier to you when we started to talk. What's the difference between Chile and Peru? How do you rate the political stability?
Okay, I don't know what a Swedish curtain is, I have to admit.
Swedish curtain is jail. It's a German expression.
Look, let me start with Peru. So Peru is, they're currently, I guess, looking at swearing in the 4th cabinet of ministers since the president was sworn in last July. So in just over 6 months, 7 months. No, I guess 6 months because it was late July. So, so that obviously is pretty crazy. It's not, it demonstrates that the cabinet's not stable. To go through that many ministers in such a short period of time. I think what we're seeing in Peru is really the government is, they're really having trouble, frankly, finding a balance between making their base happy, which are very, very far left, and actually delivering, a government, i.e., their cabinet, that can actually get stuff done with a country that is, not sold on communism or on left-wing politics at all. If you look, it's much more of a kind of center, if not right-wing representation in the Congress, and the Congress does have, have significant powers in Peru. Basically, the bottom line is there's a bit of a stalemate, I guess is the best way to describe it. We haven't really seen any significant legislative changes since the new president was sworn in, even though he came in with a lot of fear for investors. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think for us to get that sort of, that kind of disaster scenario, you'd have to have a leader that was like clearly popular, like 70-80% popularity, and you're not even close to that. So as a result, there's really just no way to do anything other than to compromise. And that's what we're seeing right now. And they've had really tough time with COVID in the country, and the government's been sort of dealing with that. And so overall, I think we've actually been able to manage pretty well, and we haven't seen any big changes from the top. So that's the bottom line. In terms of comparing it to other places in South America, look, I think that's really, really tough because every country is very different in South America. I mean, definitely, we've been watching, or I've been personally watching what's happening in Chile out of the corner of my eye for a while, because obviously that's been the shining star of stability, and it's looking like that stability is becoming more shaky. And if so, that's that actually might be good for Peru, because it will drive maybe some capital from Chile to Peru, and and that wouldn't be a bad thing for us. So.
Okay, super. So then let's move to the company. There are several questions about your PEA. When will this come out?
Yeah, we're in the very late stages of that right now. So I would say it will be out fairly soon. So maybe in the next 1 to 2 months, in that ballpark. It's not something necessarily that's a bottleneck for us or a gating item in terms of developing Bethania. But it's something that we commissioned ourselves, number one, because some of that work needed to be done anyway. And then also, we want to be able to present, sort of a full or a better sort of financial model to the market in terms of what the mine will be, and obviously have that being done by an independent third party as opposed to just my opinion. So that's the process there. So I guess unlike maybe other companies that are sort of relying on a PEA in order to get funded and to move their project forward, for us it's more of a parallel process where we are doing that at the same time we're already moving the project forward. We're already past PEA level in terms of our engineering. We're way beyond that. But again, it's something that we sort of committed to do for the market, and we will do that.
Yeah, you already touched on that in your answer. So the thing for me is then, do you require then, let's say, even a feasibility study, or would the PEA be fine for you to do a project finance, which you probably obviously would need to really get Bethania into production?
Look, I don't want to diminish the value of PEAs and stuff, but the reality is an industry expert financier can do their own due diligence, and they don't necessarily need a third-party report for that. And we have all that available for those financiers to look at. Obviously they have to sign NDAs and stuff, but that's very standard in our business to do that with other parties. So through that process, they essentially can get there and do their own work without having to necessarily rely on a third party. It does mean we steer ourselves more towards, I would say, groups that are experts in the mining sector that can get do their own work and get comfortable with our project without it sort of having that rubber stamp of an independent third party. But that's sort of the trade-off that we've decided to take in order to get the project moving faster.
Okay, super. Because there comes a question already from a fund in Munich. Can you please give some development milestones after the PEA or the FS? So the FS you don't need, you said, but what would be some milestones after the PEA? What do you want to achieve then?
Start of construction obviously would be a milestone for the mill. There'll be various stages of underground development that we will be talking about over the course of this year. So you might want to call that a milestone as well. That'll include underground rehabilitation first, and then true mine development. I think those would probably be the two things, and then, I mean, it's a very quick build, this process, for a 350 ton per day plant, you're looking at, a matter of months to build it, not years. So we will have updates on that throughout the year, but it should happen pretty quickly.
Okay, super. So what is the situation in the Bethania mine itself? Let's say, what is the quality still of the mine? Because it has been 40 years in production. Can you still use, let's say, a lot of adits? Is the timber fine? Do you have to replace steel, for example? What does it look like? And there was also a question from a shareholder saying, are you going only into the underground, or do you see maybe also a potential open pit potential?
Okay, well, two different questions, so I'll answer the first one. Look, the first few hundred meters of the mine appear to be in decent shape, but yeah, it's been 5 or 6 years since there's been any significant production. It is a very dry mine, actually. So we don't expect there will be a lot of degradation, but we're still evaluating that. And so there will be some timbers replaced, there will be some additional support put in. And as well, part of that is just us transitioning from being a a private Peruvian company to being a publicly traded company. We have to meet a higher standard of safety. And so we will be doing that as well, and that'll be part of the rehabilitation process. Is making sure that everything is safe. That being said, there is a lot of access that we have available. I mean, it was the mine design was not hugely different than what we would do. And so you've got that main adit, the 670 level, that goes basically across the whole mine, and there are still stopes available on that level that are unmined. And then they started doing the next level down. They only did, I'm not even sure if it's 100 meters, maybe 50 or 100 meters, a little bit, and then we can just continue that on, and that will be our next production area. So we're in a very good situation there to be able to start production very quickly.
Okay, and potential open pit potential, do you have that?
Potential open pit potential, yeah. It is a possibility to do, I would say, maybe a very shallow open pit in parts of the surface where we're getting a bunch of those veins very close together. It's not something that anybody has thought of previously. But again, I can't help but look at some of those zones at surface that have multiple veins that may be only 5 or 10 meters apart. And some of those are frankly lower grade as well, that could be mineable in a small open pit, but wouldn't be mineable underground. So that is something that we would consider. It will not affect our near-term mining plan. Our near-term mining plan is to mine super high grade from underground and fill the mill with that. But in the future, as we expand the mine and we have more tonnage to play with, that is something that we could look at potentially in the future.
So then there's the same fund manager from Munich. I know him. He's very active always. What is the expected capex to the extent you can discuss pre-PEA, and timeline for the financing? He assumes Q2. And what is the expected debt percentage of the capex? I know it's a forward-looking statement, but maybe you can give us a little bit of orientation.
Sure. So look, capex. It's very low capex for this kind of a project. So, I think if you were looking at a range of maybe 10 million to 20 million, we'll be targeting towards the middle of that. And that would be from a Cadillac at 20 million to maybe something very sketchy at 10 million. We'll try to thread the needle there and get something that's the best of both worlds, cheap, but also will work properly. So and look, there's lots of components to that capex. It's obviously a lot more complicated than that. The mill is only one part of it. And by the way, that's an all-inclusive number. That's not just the mill. It would be the tailings, it would be the underground development, and it would also be the additional surface infrastructure that we need. Buildings, offices, maintenance shop, all that stuff. So we've covered it. We've accounted for all that. In terms of financing, look, I think this is a very high kind of cash flow, quick payback mining situation. So our preference would be to do quite a bit of debt potentially. potentially 50%, maybe even consider more than that. But again, we would pay that back very quickly, given the expected cash flow of the mine. So that would be the plan right now.
Super. So can we say 1 year from here you are in production?
That is the plan. Yes.
Okay, super, perfect. 350 tons per day. That sounds to me like that you want to work under the Peruvian small-scale mining law to start. I think that's also on the more easy side of the permitting. What comes after that? If you want to go, let's say, to 500 or 1,000 tons a day, if possible, do you have to do again the full permitting process, or do you just have to top it up?
So it's a little bit of both, I guess. Some things you have to do to a different standard. It's called the general regime, is what they call everything above 350 tons per day in Peru. But the important thing is that we can do that while we're making money, and we don't have to, we don't have to start from scratch. So, so that's really been the plan from day one, is to, get into cash flow quickly, which we've been able to do, and we've been able to get the permits that we need. And then while we are, making money, we can go and do all the work that's required to get the expansion approved. And so that's something we can do from a position of strength, instead of having to, wait and continually finance the company.
Okay. What is your current cash status?
A few million, and we're our burn rate right now is very, very low. So we're in good shape, basically until we start construction.
Okay. Which role does Dr. Quinton Henning play in your geological decisions?
Well, he's someone that I talk to pretty frequently, and bounce ideas off of, for really both of our projects, Bethania and Silver Kings. So when we do look at the work that we're doing, whether it be the surface work, geophysics, or drilling programs, we definitely get his feedback. Now that he's working for a fund, obviously we have to be careful about sharing non-public info with him, and I should just mention that we don't do that. So it's certainly more on the conceptual level, but there's a lot you can talk about conceptually about what we should do and what we could do, without having to disclose any material info. Material non-public info, I should say.
Yeah, of course. Super. Then you showed us the resource estimate. Congratulations again on that. So we talk about 14 million ounces of silver. Plus, we saw also nice amounts of zinc, lead, also copper and gold, of course. The zinc and the lead, I think you touched on it already in the presentation. That would be maybe also a source of income, as well as gold and copper. So that is fantastic. What do you think out of this, let's say, initial resource could support a initial mine life regarding 2+ million ounces silver equivalent production? And when do you think you can, or when is your plan then to enlarge that significantly?
Okay, well, if you just take the number of tons we have in the resource and divide it by 350 tons per day, you get almost 9 years. Now we I don't, that's if you sort of mine at the average grade for the whole 9 years, which I don't think we'll end up doing. We're going to mine higher grade up front. But as we do exploration, we can essentially keep replacing that higher grade as we go at depth, new veins, Carmelita. There's just so many exploration opportunities. And we can, the idea, and by the way, every high grade vein mine does the exact same thing, is you want to push out your lower grade into the future, and then at some point you can expand your mill, and then with the scale, it makes more sense to maybe mine some of that lower grade material. So so that would be our plan as well. And yeah, and so we've got, so as we explore and get higher grade, whether it's, Bethania depth is probably the deeper Bethania. It's still not that deep, but is probably the near term exploration target, the nearest term exploration target right now. That'll actually go into the mine life earlier. And again, some of the lower grade, veins and stuff like that, we would just keep pushing out and out and out into the future.
Okay, super. As I understand, your company is a little bit like the beginning of good old Fortuna Silver. It looks to me a little bit like, and I could imagine that your game plan is to make out of this several mine producer. Could you imagine to say, okay, now we are in production, for example, with Bethania, and then you're going to finance the care project in Ontario towards also production, maybe out of the Bethania mine? Would that be a plan you are thinking of?
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, let's just look at what this could look like in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Bethania's making cash flow, all the, debt's paid off. Then we have to decide, okay, with that cash that we're building on our balance sheet, do we expand Bethania? Do we build something at Silver Kings that's maybe a similar kind of startup operation, 10, 20 million? Or do we, do we do something else? And those are all obviously good decisions to make, because you're making them from the position of strength, and you can obviously evaluate the situation at the time, whether it's the exploration results, whether it's the geopolitics, and decide, where your money should go. But that's really the way I would see that, Jochen, in the future is really where we become more of a capital allocator, where we have to decide where our cash flow is going to make the best return.
Absolutely, super. Okay, so let me see, because it looks like we really answered all questions. I have 2 chat functions here. Well, that's also done. Fantastic, super. Almost inside the hour. Oh yeah, one last question. Do you have any royalties on Bethania?
Nope, it is royalty free.
Fantastic. Okay. Would you consider financing via royalties?
Likely not. Bethania has a relatively small resource to what it is capable of, again, based on the whole project that we've now consolidated around the mine. So I think if you've got a big open pit and you've got a 20-year mine life, then okay, maybe selling a royalty makes some sense. But when we've got so much exploration potential, you essentially have to give all that up, or you give that to the royalty holder, and they only pay for what you have today, right? Typically, that's how royalty deals work. So, so for us, it's not something we're really looking at, to be honest.
So you make sure that the full value of us shareholders, because I'm also a shareholder of your company, goes fully to us, right?
Correct.
Super. Perfect. Okay, so let me check also on my list here. Yeah, that is all done. That looks fantastic. Yeah. Super. Hey, we made it within the hour. Fantastic. Thank you very much, David. All the best for you. And yeah, please keep us posted and bring this lovely mine in production, because this world needs a lot of silver, zinc, lead, copper, and gold in the future.
Yes, we do.
Super. Thank you very much. All the best, David.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you much. Thank you very much for participating in our virtual online roadshow here today with Kuya Silver and David Stein, the CEO. And I think you heard a very compelling story. And as I said, it looks like in the good old days of Fortuna Silver, like the start of that, this might be something big also here in the future. And I think it's a great concept to start with a small production, small scale mining, 350 tons per day in a great old mine, which was 40 years already in production, but looks like, as you saw with the resource estimate with 14 million silver equivalent ounces already, that there is a lot more to come from. And I think the guys are doing it right. And we talk of approximately $15 million in an as CapEx investment. And then you have a metal production there. And honestly, Peru is much, much more different than from Chile or even Venezuela, if you want to call it like that. And so I think Peru has over 500, 600 years mining history. They understand that it looks to me like a little bit better, and they have no big state companies which can nationalize. So honestly, Kuya Silver, look at it now, because we are very bullish for the silver price. We still have a price target of 12 to 18 months of $41 per ounce of silver. And then this Kuya silver stock will skyrocket. That is for sure. So check it out. Thanks for watching us. Thanks for participating in the Roadshow. Keep health and safe and stay well, and hope to see you all soon in person, of course. Thanks. Bye-bye from Switzerland. And David, bye-bye to Toronto.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao. Thank you.